Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for July 29th, 2024. Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend, got some nice rest, because we have a wild week ahead of us with several big tech reports that are highly anticipated. And then, of course, we've got a busy economic calendar as well this week to be paying attention to. So, how about we jump right in and let's just dig into what happened overnight here in the markets. First off, Asian markets had a really good night, moving up across the board. Hong Kong was up 217 points, and the Nikkei came roaring back up 801 points, up 2.13%. And a lot of it is due to tremendous hopes of economic data coming out of Japan, from the Bank of Japan, and other things going on over there this week. So we'll want to be keeping an eye on that. European markets, a little bit mixed and a little bit more of a modest move this morning. The CAC is a little bit lower, while the DAX and FTSE are looking strong here this morning. And of course, we also have a Bank of England report coming this week, so highly anticipated there as well. And of course, a very big round of earnings for them this week also. U.S. markets are surging higher this morning. The NASDAQ is up more than 0.5%. Dow futures are up 0.38%. So trying to show lots of strength, and the S&P 500 up 0.40%, with huge anticipation for the data coming this week. So let's take a look at what we've got going on in our oil sector here this morning. Oil is moving down here just ever so slightly this morning, down 17 cents a barrel at 76.99. Brent is down 14 cents at 80.99, and natural gas is lower by about half a cent. If we take a look at our precious metals here this morning, well, we've got gold moving back up here this morning. Gold pushing just a little bit higher, currently up in the futures $10.10 an ounce. We've got silver, which really has taken a beating here the last couple of trading days, trying to bounce up a little bit this morning. Copper is slightly lower. Platinum and palladium trying to move a little bit higher here this morning after a rough week last week. Looking at cryptos this morning, well, we have another nice rebound here on Bitcoin. Bitcoin rising up substantially after a big move on Friday, up $1,557 a coin in this very volatile area of the market. We're green across the board in those cryptos this morning. If we take a look at our bonds this morning, bonds are moving just slightly lower. We have our 2-year bond at 4.37%. We have our 10-year bond at 4.16%, and our 30-year bond at 4.41%. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up, and let's get ready for the Monday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Remember, we're going to take a look at these charts and try and figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. And we want to shake off that bias. We want to look at the charts for what they are. This is going to be a very big week of hype. Huge week that's going to drive tremendous emotion. So remember to think about that. We want to work very closely with these charts and look at them for what they are, not for what we want them to be. So first off, taking a look at the diamonds, you saw that I put that little box in there, that little resistance area in the chart, and oh my goodness, did we surge on Friday, just piled into the market. I'll show you why I'm a little bit concerned about that here in just a moment. But taking a look here, pushing through that resistance, if the bulls can continue to find that inspiration, you can see we're gapping up this morning. As I suggested, we need to test this area, and then we need to test this area. We're going to need to test maybe this area, and then of course right in here. And if we can get through those levels, then we'll be back up here working for an all-time high test in the diamonds. And there's every reason to believe that could be possible with the big tech reports that we have coming this week, assuming they report well. Now, if those big tech reports were to disappoint, and one of the things we'll have to be careful of is we have zoomed to the upside here on this relief rally so much that this morning we're likely to be in an overbought situation here in the market. So you'll want to be watching for that possibility of a whipsaw here on the day, that the morning open could be one of the higher prints of the day. Watch that carefully. Now, if those bears were to come in, first off, a retest of this area right here, that nice little support area, we've got all those candles holding in that area. Breaking down below there, probably down here to the underneath side of that box, is where I'd be looking for it to catch a little bit of support. And if that doesn't work, well, we've got a little level right there that could hold us before we start coming back down here to retest this bigger area of price support and the upside trend in the diamonds. So keep a close eye on that. Now you'll want to keep in mind that we are well above our 50-day moving average here on the diamond. So no particular worries as far as our moving averages. Now, that's not the case if we take a look at the SPY rallying right back up here in the chart the last couple of days, and you can see we're going to be banging our head into some resistance here, surging up here this morning. We've also got a downtrend here in play to be paying attention to. So if the bulls can continue to find that inspiration, well, first we need to pop through this area right here, get through. You can see we're trying it in the pre-market, trying to test. If we can, maybe up into here to test the top of that big black candle and this downtrend. Now, if we can push through there, you'll notice we've got a gap up here that we could potentially fill. So keep an eye on that. If we were to slide up through there, we break that downtrend and break that resistance in the chart. And then maybe we're up here testing this bigger area of price resistance on our SPY. Now, one thing we want to be keeping in mind that as we rally back up, we've jumped back above that 50-day moving average here on the SPY. So we're holding in that area pretty nicely. But if we see any additional weakness here, we'll want to be watching that 50-day moving average to possibly hold us as support. Because if we were to find a failure in here, well, then just keeping in mind that if we turn back over in this chart, there's a little bit of price support right in there that runs all the way across over here. Failure down through there would likely be a retest of the low. And if we retest that low, I'm suggesting we could fill that gap and drop a little bit lower here in the chart to check these areas for support. And then, of course, a bigger area of support is beyond that. So if the bears find inspiration, we certainly have some room to move, particularly if they lose that 50-day moving average. If we take a look at our QQQ, well, QQQ, a very similar situation here with a rally back up, pushing up toward fairly significant levels of price resistance and downtrend. So we'll want to watch this area as we relieve back up. If we can continue this push here this morning, well, let's see if we can push on through. I'm going to suggest that pushing right back up into this downtrend would be the place I'd be looking for. Somewhere between here and here, that little gap fill see if we can push up into this area of that chart, and we'll be testing this downtrend resistance. Breaking through there will be fairly significant. We'll need to bust that big black candle right there, and if we can, we have that possibility once again that we can pop through and fill that gap to the upside. So watch that. Beyond that point, this would be a big, huge type day of the market. Then we might be back up here testing this resistance in the chart. Now, unfortunately, here in the QQQ, we still have a major problem. We're below our 50-day moving average. So we'll have to be thinking about that carefully as we rally back up into these resistance areas of the chart. That 50-day moving average is going to become a problem, and you'll notice that our short-term averages are crossing down here, possibly providing a little moving average squeeze here in the QQQ to the downside. Now, that could change dramatically with these big tech reports this week. We know that big tech can definitely make some huge moves in the market, but this could also be that warning sign that maybe things aren't as glorious or as wonderful as we think or hope they are in the market. So be prepared if those bears were to come in here even on the day and push back down. We'd test some of these support levels in the chart and then maybe start progressively moving back on down, and that possibility that we could slip on through that low and come down here to this bigger area of price support in the chart on the QQQ. We have to remember that is also possible, even despite all the anticipation and hope and hype that will be drummed into the market this week, really building that emotion. And then if we take a look at our IWM has certainly benefited from this massive rotation. I will tell you this, however, that if the big tech giants report as strong as the market seems to be hopeful that they will, then we'll want to be watching this pretty carefully, because I would suspect that a lot of the money that's rotated into here would quickly and suddenly dry up as we pull money back over into the tech giants, those 10 or so companies that continue to drive the majority of the volume of the market. So watch that carefully. That being said, if the bulls can find inspiration here today, you can see we might break this area in the chart that we've been struggling with, and then we'd start working our way up toward this big resistance area in the chart. Let me pull that back. You can see that's these tops across over here all the way in 2021 and 2022. Testing that area up there would be significant, and if we were to pop through there, then we may be on our way to making some new record highs here in the QQQ and IWM, and finally making some changes here on those small caps. However, if those bears were to find inspiration here today, then the pullback into here, you can see there's a lot of price congestion in this area. So maybe we come back into there and breaking down below there, probably coming into that support down into this area if those bears were to find inspiration. And it certainly does seem possible with those tech reports coming up, and we could see a big shift in capital if those tech giants perform as well as the market hopes. However, if they don't, you might see this build into a really big change here in the market, where that rotation into small caps, into industrials, into consumer defensive type sectors of the market could really blow up big if those tech giants happen to miss. So keep that in mind. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX here in the market, well, we had a nice little pullback there on Friday, but I got to tell you, it's really not enough to give you a big warm and fuzzy. You can see we struggled here a lot of the day with this big downtrend here in the chart, and we still run that possibility that we could hold a higher low. Now, that being said, this is a evening star type pattern that could push us right on back down if those bulls find enough inspiration to do so. So breaking down below this area, maybe coming back down here where we've tested this last higher low here in the chart would be a good test of support. And if that were to break, then I would say the bulls are fully in control and we'll start pushing down here to this bigger area of price support in the VIX. However, if those bears find inspiration here and we continue to see some selling coming into the market, we'll want to be watching these areas of price support wherever we can catch those higher lows in the market, because that's where some real fear can come into the market. And there's certainly reason that that could be possible this week. Let's take a look at our T2122. Our T2122, the 4-week new high, new low ratio, we finished on Friday up here, just taking a peek at that bearish reversal zone. This morning with our gap up, watch carefully, gap up will probably be up here pegged near the top of T2122, and that's why I'm suggesting to watch for a potential whipsaw. Not that it will occur, but watch for the potential whipsaw. If we push up into that region, we could see some immediate selling to start bringing this back down just a little bit. If the bears were to find inspiration today, well, we know we've got a big opening to the downside if they find something to grab a hold of. If we take a look at our T2108, got to give this to the bulls. That is continuing to hold up nicely. I will tell you that we are reaching up here into that very frothy zone of the market where we're overbought in a lot of places of the market, but we still have some upside opportunity. Notice we could peak out up here. So if we can get enough bullish inspiration here today, then pushing on higher, maybe seeing if we can break through this resistance in the chart, certainly doable. But remember, once we get up into this 75-80 area of T2108, we're really stretching that rubber band pretty tight, and we'll have to be watchful for that potential reversal. When we look at T2107, same thing is true. We are already stretched up here into a very frothy zone of T2107. We can push a little bit higher here to test some of these levels, and probably will. But remember, we're getting into a very toppy area of T2107. So if we find any reason for the bears to attack, we would be looking for this to pull back. But right now, the only way you can look at this is the bulls are in control. If we take a look at our T2101, well, our T2101 shows us that little bit of a problem with that huge push on Friday to the upside. I want you to notice it really wasn't accompanied by much breadth of the market. Very interesting situation here where we're making these big moves in the market. We're not getting accompanying breadth to follow along. So watch that carefully here today. We would need to see on this push this morning, we need to see that breadth really starting to advance a little bit. If that breadth were to turn over here, it might tell us that we're getting a little toppy. Despite the fact that we've got big tech reports, we might be running into a little bit of situation where the market is a bit nervous about those reports and the possibility of that shift in those big tech reports. So be kind of careful here in the market and don't chase overly extended stocks. If we take a look at our economic calendar here for today, well, our economic calendar, we've got a really light day today, not much anything going on. We've got a Dallas Fed manufacturing number that is expected to come in terrible, like all of our manufacturing here in the United States, but we don't care as long as big techs continue to drive the market. We've got a couple of short-term bill auctions, but then we start to build throughout the week. We're going to have Case-Shiller reports. We've got house price index, we've got consumer confidence coming in, we've got the job openings report to be paying attention to. Then on Wednesday, we ramp it up even more. We've got Mortgage applications, ADP report. We've got the Treasury refunding announcement. We've got employment cost index. And then we're going to run on down here to some bond auctions, a 30-year bond auction, the Chicago PMI, pending home sales, petroleum status, and then we're going to hear from the FOMC. We got the FOMC meeting, their announcement, and press conference coming on Wednesday. So don't be surprised if we see some choppy, lethargic markets, despite the fact of all the anticipation of those big tech reports. We could see a lot of volatility in the market this week. And then looking into Thursday, we've got jobless claims, productivity, and costs. We've got manufacturing PMI final, ISM manufacturing index. We've got construction spending, natural gas report, bond auctions, and a Fed balance sheet. And then on Friday, the big employment situation number coming in there on Friday, along with factory orders. So we've got a full meal deal this week on the economic calendar. Just a nice little day here today where we might get that opportunity to really push big in those charts based on earnings until we start hitting some of these more stressor points in the market. And then if we take a look at our earnings calendar here today, well, our earnings calendar is a busy one, and it's really going to ramp up this week. We're going to get massive numbers of reports coming in. So look for a lot of price volatility this week as these stocks continue to report. This morning, we've already got Mickey D's reporting. Mickey D's is holding in there pretty flat. They are citing the fact that the consumer pullback is worsening here for them, and something we have been talking about in Right Way Options, that the consumers seem to be dramatically slowing down, which does run us into a little bit of concern on joblessness and other things here in the market. So if you want the full list of notables, make sure you click the link just below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog. Now, a couple notables here this morning. AMG will be reporting. We're going to hear from Hope this morning. We've got that Mickey D's report. We've got on semiconductor and OIS. Just a few of those that will be reporting this morning. So make sure you check that link. This afternoon, the earnings numbers are much bigger. AMKR, we're going to get report from CORT. We're going to hear from CVI today. Pay attention to that coming up off of this bottom. A little bit of hopefulness in there. We're going to hear from Save. We're going to hear from Telray. And we're going to hear from WWD. I can't type this morning. So pay attention to those reports today, and make sure you click that link to get into the blog. So how about we take a look at a few charts that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me this quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. I apologize that through the end of last week, I was just so darn busy that I didn't get a chance to answer all of those questions and comments, but I will be back on topic here today. So if I've missed something, please repost it. I would be happy to help and answer some of those questions. Thank you so much to everyone who does take the time to do that. And for those of you that share these videos out on your social media feed, and just a big shout out for those who continue to support the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link just below the title of the video. You guys are awesome. Let's take a little bit of a look at some of these stocks setting up. And remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. Do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market. And just realize there's a lot of earnings reports. Anytime you look at one of these charts, make sure you check where the earnings are, because you can get great entry signals just before an earnings report and get caught in an ugly mess on those reports. So be very, very careful. First off, HRB. H&R Block, nice little resting pattern and consolidation. Got this upside trend going in here for it. Tried to go through and pop on Friday. Still may rest, consolidate here a little bit. You want to keep in mind that it reports on the 20th of next month, so you've got plenty of time in here to take advantage of this. HRB looking really, really good here on the day. Take a look at AKAM. Been kind of waiting in here on AKAM Friday. It did pop that alert and hold it into the close. And as you can see, pushing on up here today, gapping through. Now be careful chasing this, but if it were to rest or pull back, I would look for an opportunity there in AKAM, keeping in mind it's going to report on 8/8. Take a look at XLP. XLP, those consumer staples, showing some strength in here. And I've been showing you guys that potential kind of defensive sector stock support coming into the market. Those just old boring companies with good strong dividends holding up pretty well. And you can see that here in XLP. So take a look at XLP, and if you jump into that sector, you're going to see some things like Constellation Brands trying to come up, MKC, nice upside trend here in that. We've got Bungie in here looking good, Estee Lauder trying to sneak out from under a downtrend here, worth taking a look at. I really like the way Tyson is performing, looking good. CLX has been coming up in the chart. We've got Costco. Costco is one of those that has rolled over in a head and shoulders pattern, and we talked about this one in RWO as a possible short. So keep an eye on that. But other things, old boring stuff like General Mills, showing signs in here. We've got stocks like Kellogg's trying to push up, Keurig Dr. Pepper trying to push up, Kimberly-Clark trying to make some moves here in the market, push back up, Philip Morris and Altria all looking good in that defensive sector area of the market. So I would be keeping close eyes on some of those stocks, really showing quite a little bit of strength. Taking one step back here, let's take a look at our TLT. TLT coming back up. This rejected big time to the downside and now surging back up strongly. Let's keep a close eye on this. Nice move here today. If it can regain some of this support and hold up here, then I would be interested here in that. Watch that carefully if it can. Not saying it's going to. There could be a lot of currency things moving around here today, with Bank of Japan making some decisions. Bank of England and several others will be making decisions along with the FOMC. So there could be a lot of currency movement. But notice in here this morning, we've got the US dollar gapping higher, trying to push up into some strength. So keep an eye on that. And then if we take a look with that in mind, take a look at what we see going on in energy. Probably not a really big surprise to see energy pulling back just a little tiny bit this morning as a result of the strengthening dollar. But we've got a nice pattern forming up in here. Very choppy, very volatile, maybe a little bit difficult to trade. But you can see here in energy, we've got this W formation in here. If we were to hold in this area, continue to hold that higher low, or even push on through and break through that resistance, that would be something to be paying attention here on XLE, and there are some stocks that are showing some signs in this group of stocks that are showing bullishness. You can see FANG kind of fell, lost that support, but it's trying to hold in here. We've got EOG trying to hold that nice little higher low. We've got APA pushing up in here. KMI has been very, very bullish. We've got Devon Energy trying to make a bottoming formation in here. Occidental doing the same. So keep an eye on some of those stocks. They may have that opportunity to come around. Now, particularly if the dollar were to weaken. If the dollar were to weaken, that would help them out an awful lot here in that energy sector. So keep an eye on those. Take a look at stocks like Molson's, pushing up nicely here. We're several days up. I would look for a little bit of a rest and pullback here. Again, old boring company, dividend payer, starting to come around out of these bottoms, and it's part of that rotation where we're seeing so much money coming out of the tech sector into areas like this, and we're getting a more rounded market with more leadership in the market. If that process continues, watch for some of these stocks to look pretty good overall. Take a look at CRM. Now, CRM went through a little bit of a protracted downtrend here in the chart after running up and tagging, filling that gap on the interest. Now we're seeing that move back up, and we're testing this bigger downtrend in the chart. I wouldn't want to chase it right here, but if that has that opportunity maybe to pop up through up here and prove to hold, there's plenty of time before we hit that earnings report that could come around and we could start a bit of an uptrend here in CRM. So keep a close eye on that. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day in your trading. Thank you so much for listening and being here this morning. Thanks for all the kind support that you've shown to me in this channel. I do truly appreciate it. You guys take care, be safe, have a wonderful day, and as always, I wish you all the very, very best in your trading.